It was January 5th, 2026, at 2:47 a.m. when a dream so vivid and disturbing that I couldn't distinguish it from reality drove me to a rocky outcrop in the mountain wilderness 3 miles from my home, and there, surrounded by jagged granite formations that rose like ancient sentinels against a sky so thick with stars, it looked like someone had shattered diamonds across black velvet, the wind carrying the sharp scent of pine and snow from higher elevations. The temperature hovering just above freezing so that each breath became visible prayer, Jesus appeared before me with tears streaming down his face and said that someone is coming to your door, a specific person, at a specific time, carrying a specific message that will completely alter the trajectory of your life, and that most of his chosen ones will miss it entirely because they've been conditioned to expect God to move only in the ways they've been taught. Not everyone who sees this message is meant to see it. Some will scroll past, some will ignore it. But you've been marked. I need to stop right here before I go any further. If you're watching this, I need you to do something. I need you to leave your prayer requests in the comments below. Not because I'm special, I'm not, but because something is happening right now, in this moment, as you're hearing these words. There's a reason you're here. There's a reason you didn't scroll past. And I believe with everything in me that Jesus wants to meet you in your specific need tonight. And if you're a true believer, if you're someone who doesn't just want entertainment but actually wants to hear what God is saying in this hour, hit that subscribe button. Because what I'm about to share with you over these next few nights isn't going to make sense to everyone. It's not going to be comfortable. It's going to challenge everything you think you know about how God moves. Some of you know me from The Chosen, where I've had the profound honor of portraying Jesus, but I need you to understand something. I'm an actor. I'm a broken man who's been given a gift I don't deserve. What I'm about to share with you has nothing to do with that show, nothing to do with my career, nothing to do with anything except what happened to me on that rocky outcrop in the middle of the night when I couldn't sleep, when I couldn't pray, when I felt like I was losing my mind. Let me take you back to that moment. The dream had been so real. In it, I was standing at my front door, and there was a knock, 3 distinct knocks that seemed to reverberate through my entire body. When I opened the door, there was a person standing there, but I couldn't see their face. It was obscured somehow, like looking through frosted glass. But the feeling that came with their presence was overwhelming. Part terror, part joy, part recognition of something I'd been waiting for my entire life without knowing I was waiting for it. In the dream, this person handed me something. I couldn't see what it was. But the moment it touched my hands, I woke up gasping, my heart pounding so hard I thought I was having a heart attack. I looked at the clock, 2:23 a.m. I tried to go back to sleep. I prayed. I tossed and turned. But there was this pull, this inexplicable compulsion to get up, get dressed, and drive to this place I'd hiked to a few times before, a rocky outcrop about 40 minutes from my house where you can see for miles in every direction. I'm not someone who does things like this. I'm not someone who gets mystical experiences. I'm skeptical by nature. I question everything. But something was different that night. The drive up the mountain road was surreal. My headlights cut through darkness so complete it felt like driving through outer space. The road twisted and turned, climbing higher and higher. I passed no other cars. It was just me, the hum of my engine, and this overwhelming sense that I was being summoned. I parked at the trailhead and started hiking. I had a flashlight, but I barely needed it. The moon was 3 days past full, and the stars, God, the stars. Living in Los Angeles, you forget what the night sky actually looks like. But up there, at that elevation, with no light pollution for miles, it was like seeing creation the way Adam must have seen it. The trail was rocky, uneven. My boots crunched on loose gravel. The temperature had dropped significantly. I could see my breath, and I was grateful I'd grabbed my heavy jacket. The wind moved through the pine trees with a sound like distant voices, like whispered conversations I couldn't quite make out. It took me about 20 minutes to reach the outcrop. It's this massive granite formation that juts out from the mountainside like the prow of a ship. During the day, you can see 3 different valleys from there, mountain ranges stacked against each other like waves. But at night, it's different. At night, you feel like you're standing at the edge of the world. I walked to the edge, not too close because there's a sheer drop of about 300 feet, and I just stood there. The wind was stronger up there, coming in gusts that made my eyes water. The cold bit at my exposed skin, and I remember thinking, what am I doing here? This is crazy. I should be home in bed. And that's when I felt it. It's hard to describe if you've never experienced it. It wasn't a voice, not at first. It was a presence, a weight to the air, a sudden stillness that made the wind seem to pause, made the night seem to hold its breath. I turned around, and he was there. Jesus was standing about 10 feet away from me, near a cluster of smaller rocks, and the first thing I noticed, the very first thing, was that he was crying. Not sobbing, not wailing, but tears were streaming down his face, catching the moonlight, and his expression was one of such profound sadness mixed with such fierce love that I felt my knees start to buckle. "Jonathan," he said, and his voice was exactly as I'd imagined it 1,000 times while preparing for my role. But also nothing like I'd imagined. It had weight. It had texture. It seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. I couldn't speak. I literally couldn't form words. He took a step closer, and I could see him more clearly now. He was wearing simple clothes, a dark robe, nothing elaborate. His feet were bare despite the cold ground. His hair moved slightly in the wind. And his eyes were looking at me like he could see every thought I'd ever had, every secret I'd ever kept, every failure I'd ever tried to hide. "Do you know why I brought you here?" he asked. I shook my head. My throat was tight. "Because you're about to miss it," he said, and his voice broke slightly. "So many of my chosen ones are about to miss it. They're about to miss the very thing they've been praying for because it's not going to look the way they expect." He gestured toward the valley below, where scattered lights from distant homes twinkled like earthbound stars. "In the next 30 days, he said, "I'm sending someone to your door, not just yours, to the doors of everyone I've marked for this season. A person, a messenger, someone carrying something you need, and most of you are going to turn them away." "Why?" I managed to whisper. "Because you've been taught to expect me to move in spectacular ways," he said. "You've been taught to look for the burning bush, the parted sea, the angel with the flaming sword. But I'm coming in the ordinary. I'm coming in the unexpected. I'm coming in the form of a stranger at your door, a phone call from someone you haven't spoken to in years, an email that seems like spam, a coincidence that's actually divine appointment." The wind picked up again, and I had to steady myself against it. The temperature seemed to drop another 10 degrees. I could feel the cold seeping through my jacket, but I didn't care. I couldn't look away from him. "I don't understand," I said. He smiled then, but it was a sad smile. "I know you don't. That's why I brought you here. That's why I'm going to show you." He raised his hand, and suddenly the air between us seemed to shimmer, like heat waves rising from summer pavement. And in that shimmer, I saw something, a vision, clear as day. I saw a woman, middle-aged, sitting in her living room. There was a knock at her door. She looked through the peephole and saw a young man she didn't recognize holding a package. She assumed it was a delivery driver, but she wasn't expecting anything, and it was late, after 8 p.m. She felt a moment of unease. She decided not to answer. The young man waited for a moment, then left the package by the door and walked away. The woman never opened it. 3 days later, she threw it away, assuming it had been delivered to the wrong address. Inside that package was a check for $50,000 from a relative she'd lost touch with years ago, who had passed away and left her an inheritance. The check had an expiration date. She never knew it existed. The vision faded, and I was staring at Jesus again, my heart pounding. "That's happening right now," he said. "Tonight, as we speak. And it's going to happen thousands of times in the next month because my people have become afraid. They've become suspicious. They've become so focused on protecting themselves from the enemy that they've locked me out too." "But Lord," I said, and my voice was shaking, "we're told to be wise. We're told to test the spirits. We're told not to open our doors to strangers." "And you should be wise," he interrupted, but his voice was gentle. "But wisdom isn't the same as fear. Discernment isn't the same as suspicion. I'm not telling you to be foolish. I'm telling you to be awake. I'm telling you to be expectant. I'm telling you that I'm moving right now, in this moment, and most of my chosen ones are so locked down, so defended, so convinced they know how I work, that they're going to miss me entirely." He walked closer to me, close enough that I could have reached out and touched him. The tears were still on his face. "Do you remember the innkeeper?" he asked. I nodded, confused by the question. "Do you remember how he turned away a pregnant woman and her husband because there was no room? Do you think he knew what he was doing? Do you think he understood that he was turning away the Messiah?" "No," I whispered. "He was just doing his job," Jesus said. "He was just following the rules. He was just being practical, and he missed everything. The wind howled around us, and I heard something crack in the forest below, a branch breaking under some unseen weight. The sound echoed across the valley. I'm showing you this, Jesus continued, because you have a voice, because people listen to you, because you've been given a platform, and I need you to tell them someone is coming to your door. Maybe not literally, though for some of you it will be literal, but I'm sending a person a message, an opportunity, a divine appointment, and it's going to seem ordinary, it's going to seem random, it might even seem suspicious or inconvenient. He paused, and his eyes locked onto mine with an intensity that made me feel like I was being seen all the way down to my atoms. But it's me, he said. It's me knocking. It's me standing there. It's me in disguise, testing to see if you'll recognize me when I don't come the way you expect. I felt tears starting to stream down my own face now. The cold air made them sting. What do I tell them? I asked. How do they know? How do they discern? Tell them to pray now, he said. Tell them to ask me now, before the knock comes, to give them eyes to see and ears to hear. Tell them to ask me for a sign, a confirmation, a witness in their spirit. Tell them that I will never send anything that contradicts my word, but that my word is bigger and wilder and more surprising than they've been taught. He turned and looked out over the valley, and I followed his gaze. The scattered lights below seemed to pulse in the darkness. Every one of those lights is a home, he said. Every one of those homes has someone in it who's been praying for breakthrough, for provision, for healing, for direction, and I'm answering right now. But the answer isn't going to look like they think. Another vision shimmered in the air. This time I saw an older man, a pastor, sitting in his office. His phone rang. The caller ID showed a number he didn't recognize. He let it go to voicemail. The person didn't leave a message. They never called back. That person was a wealthy businessman who had been moved by God to donate $100,000 to the pastor's struggling church. He had taken the pastor's number from the church website. When the pastor didn't answer and didn't call back, the businessman assumed it was a sign that he should give the money elsewhere. He did. The pastor's church closed 6 months later. Oh, God, I breathed. It's happening everywhere, Jesus said, and now his voice carried a note of urgency that made my chest tighten. My people are missing me because they're waiting for the spectacular, and I'm coming in the simple. They're waiting for the miraculous, and I'm coming in the mundane. They're waiting for the voice from heaven, and I'm coming in the voice of a stranger. The sky was starting to change, just barely. The faintest hint of gray was touching the eastern horizon, though sunrise was still hours away. The stars seemed to burn brighter in response, as if fighting against the coming dawn. I need to tell you something else, Jesus said, turning back to me. Something harder. I braced myself. Some of the people I'm sending to your doors are going to be people you've rejected before, people you've judged, people you've written off. I'm giving you a second chance to see them the way I see them, and if you reject them again... He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. The wind died down suddenly, completely. The silence was absolute. Even the distant sounds of the forest seemed to cease. It was like the whole mountain was listening. Tomorrow night, Jesus said, come back here. Same time. There's more you need to see, more you need to understand. This isn't just about a person at your door. This is about a shift that's happening right now, a changing of seasons, a separation of those who will recognize me in the unexpected, and those who will cling to their expectations until they miss me entirely. I'll be here, I said immediately. He smiled then, a real smile, warm and full of affection. I know you will, he said. That's why I chose you for this. And then he was gone. Not gradually, not fading, just gone. One moment he was standing there, the next I was alone on the rocky outcrop with the wind starting to pick up again and the cold seeping back into my awareness. I stood there for a long time, shaking, partly from cold, partly from the encounter. The sky continued its slow shift toward dawn. I could hear birds starting to wake up in the trees below. When I finally made my way back down the trail to my car, the sun was just starting to paint the eastern sky with the faintest brush of pink. I'm telling you this now because I believe with everything in me that some of you watching this are about to receive your knock, your call, your unexpected visitor, your divine appointment disguised as an interruption, and I'm begging you, don't miss it. Tomorrow night I'm going back to that outcrop. I'm going to hear the rest of what Jesus wants to say, and I'm going to share it with you. But right now, today, I need you to do something. I need you to pray. I need you to ask God to prepare your heart for the unexpected. I need you to ask Him to give you eyes to see Him when He comes in disguise, because He's coming. Someone is coming to your door, and everything is about to change. It was January 6th, 2026 at 2:47 a.m., the exact same time as the night before, when I found myself driving back up that mountain road, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles were white, my mind racing with everything that had happened in the hours since I'd left that rocky outcrop. The temperature had dropped even further tonight. The dashboard thermometer read 28 degrees, and a thin layer of frost covered everything, making the world look like it had been dipped in silver. The moon was still bright, but clouds were moving in from the west, creating strange shadows that raced across the landscape as I climbed higher into the wilderness. I hadn't slept. Not really. I'd gone home after that first encounter, tried to rest, but every time I closed my eyes, I saw his face, those tears, that urgency in his voice, and I kept thinking about the visions he'd shown me, the woman who threw away her inheritance, the pastor who missed the call that could have saved his church. But something else had happened during the day that shook me even more. I'd received a message, a direct message on social media from someone I didn't know. The profile looked fake, generic photo, barely any followers, created just a few months ago. Everything in me screamed spam or scam. The message was simple. I have something for you. Can we meet? I almost deleted it. My finger hovered over the delete button, and then I remembered what Jesus had said. I'm coming in the ordinary. I'm coming in the unexpected. I responded. I asked what they wanted to give me. They said they couldn't explain it in a message, but that they'd been praying for 3 weeks and kept seeing my face, kept hearing my name, kept feeling like they were supposed to give me something. I still don't know if it's real. I still don't know if it's him. But I agreed to meet them in a public place tomorrow afternoon, and the fact that I'm even considering it, the fact that I'm not immediately dismissing it as crazy, shows me how much that first encounter changed something in me. The trailhead was exactly as I'd left it. I parked in the same spot, grabbed my flashlight and a thermos of coffee this time, and started the hike. My breath came out in thick clouds. The frost crunched under my boots. Everything was sharper tonight, more defined, like the cold had brought the world into higher resolution. The hike felt shorter this time, even though I knew it was the same distance. Maybe it was anticipation, maybe it was fear, maybe it was both. When I reached the rocky outcrop, I immediately felt it. That same presence, that same weight to the air. But this time, Jesus was already there, standing at the very edge of the precipice, looking out over the valley. The clouds I'd seen moving in had arrived, creating a ceiling about 1,000 feet above us, trapping the moonlight and making everything glow with an eerie, diffused luminescence. He turned when he heard my footsteps. "You came," he said, and there was something in his voice, relief, maybe, or was it testing to see if I would? "You told me to," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "I tell many people many things," he replied. "Not all of them listen." He gestured for me to come closer, to stand beside him at the edge. I did, carefully, my heart pounding. The drop-off was even more intimidating at night. I could hear wind rushing through the canyon below, a constant low roar like distant traffic. "How many people have watched your video?" he asked. The question caught me off guard. I don't know. I haven't posted it yet. I'm recording this to post after. "When you do," he interrupted, "thousands will watch. Tens of thousands, maybe more. And do you know how many will actually do what I'm asking?" I didn't answer. I was afraid to. "Less than 1%, he said, and his voice carried such sorrow that it made my chest ache. Less than 1% will actually prepare their hearts, actually pray for discernment, actually stay alert for the knock at their door. The rest will watch, they'll feel moved, they'll leave a comment, they'll hit subscribe, and then they'll go right back to their lives, waiting for me to show up the way they've always expected me to show up." He turned to face me fully now, and I could see that he'd been crying again, or maybe he'd never stopped. "Do you know what breaks my heart most?" he asked. I shook my head. "It's not the people who reject me outright. It's not the atheists or the mockers or the ones who've never heard my name. It's my own people, my chosen ones, the ones who pray to me every day, who read my word, who go to church, who genuinely love me, and who will miss me completely when I show up because I don't fit their theology. The wind picked up suddenly, violently, and I had to take a step back from the edge. The temperature seemed to plummet another 10 degrees. I pulled my jacket tighter. Last night I showed you 2 examples, Jesus continued, raising his voice slightly to be heard over the wind. Tonight I need to show you more. I need you to understand the scope of what's happening. This isn't isolated. This isn't random. This is a massive move of my spirit, and most of my church is going to miss it entirely. He raised both hands, and the air around us began to shimmer again. But this time it was different. This time it was like the entire valley below us became a screen, and I could see multiple visions at once, overlapping, interconnected. I saw a young woman, college-aged, walking across campus. A homeless man approached her, asking not for money, but to give her something. A book, old and worn. She smiled politely, but kept walking, earbuds in, assuming he was trying to scam her somehow. That book contained a handwritten note from her grandmother, who had passed away 5 years earlier, a note the grandmother had given to this homeless man, a former student of hers, with specific instructions to find her granddaughter and give it to her when the time was right. The note contained information about a trust fund the granddaughter knew nothing about, set up for her education. She never got it. She dropped out 2 semesters later because she couldn't afford tuition. I saw a businessman, successful and wealthy, sitting in his office. His secretary buzzed to tell him there was someone in the lobby asking to see him, someone without an appointment, someone who seemed odd. He was busy. He had back-to-back meetings. He told her to send them away. That person was an angel, literally an angel in human form, sent to warn him about a business decision he was about to make that would destroy everything he'd built. He made the decision. His company collapsed within a year. I saw a pastor, different from the one I'd seen the night before, standing at his pulpit, preaching about being open to God's voice. After the service, a teenager approached him, nervous, saying she'd had a dream about the church and needed to share it. The pastor smiled, patted her shoulder, told her that was wonderful, and said to email his assistant to set up an appointment. She never did. The dream was a warning about a staff member who was embezzling funds. The theft continued for 3 more years before it was discovered. The church never recovered. I saw an elderly man sitting in his living room watching television. There was a knock at his door. He looked through the window and saw a young couple he didn't recognize. He didn't answer. They knocked again. He turned up the volume on the TV. They finally left. That couple had just moved in next door. They were believers, sent by God to befriend him, to care for him, to be there when he had a stroke 3 weeks later. Instead, he had the stroke alone. He died alone. No one found him for 4 days. Vision after vision after vision, each one more heartbreaking than the last. I felt tears streaming down my face, freezing in the cold air. "Stop," I finally said, my voice breaking. "Please stop." The visions faded. The valley returned to normal, just scattered lights in the darkness. "You see?" Jesus said quietly. "You see what's happening? I'm moving, I'm sending, I'm orchestrating divine appointments every single day. And my people are missing them because they're afraid, because they're busy, because they're distracted, because they've created such rigid boxes for how I'm allowed to work that anything outside those boxes gets dismissed as coincidence or ignored as inconvenient." He walked away from the edge, toward a large boulder that sat in the center of the outcrop. He sat down on it, and the gesture was so human, so weary, that it made him seem more real than ever. "Come here," he said, patting the rock beside him. I sat down. The stone was freezing, even through my jeans, but I didn't care. "I need to tell you something about this season," he said, his voice softer now, more intimate. "Something that's going to be hard for people to hear." I waited. "I'm separating," he said. "Right now, in this moment, I'm separating the sheep who know my voice from the sheep who only know about my voice. I'm separating those who will follow me into the unexpected from those who will only follow me when the path is clear and comfortable. I'm separating the ones who trust me enough to open the door from the ones who will keep it locked because they're afraid." The clouds above us were getting thicker, lower. I could smell snow in the air, even though none was falling yet. "This isn't about salvation," he continued. "This isn't about heaven or hell. Everyone I'm talking about, everyone I'm talking to, they're mine. They're saved. They're going to spend eternity with me. But there are levels of intimacy. There are levels of trust. There are levels of partnership in what I'm doing on the earth. And I'm looking for the ones who will say yes when it doesn't make sense, the ones who will open the door when it seems risky, the ones who will take the call from the unknown number, the ones who will stop for the stranger, the ones who will recognize me in disguise. But Lord, I said, and I was surprised by the boldness in my own voice. You're asking people to go against every safety protocol, every wisdom teaching, every practical boundary they've been taught. In a world with real predators, real scammers, real dangers, how do they know? How do they discern between you and a threat? He turned to look at me, and his eyes were fierce now, burning with an intensity that made me want to look away, but I couldn't. Do you think I don't know about the dangers? He asked. Do you think I'm naive about the world? I'm not asking anyone to be foolish. I'm not asking anyone to abandon wisdom, but I'm asking this. Have you prayed? Have you asked me specifically to prepare you for divine appointments? Have you asked me to give you a witness in your spirit when it's me? Have you cultivated the kind of relationship with me where you can hear my voice clearly enough to know the difference? He stood up and I stood with him. The wind was howling now, and the first few snowflakes were starting to fall, tiny and hard, like frozen sand. Most of my people haven't, he said. Most of my people pray generic prayers. They ask me to bless their day, to keep them safe, to provide for their needs, but they don't ask me to teach them to recognize me. They don't ask me for the kind of intimacy where they can sense my presence in a stranger's knock. They don't cultivate the sensitivity to my spirit that would allow them to know, really know, when I'm orchestrating something. He walked back toward the edge, and I followed. The snow was falling harder now, swirling in the wind, creating patterns in the air like living things. Let me show you something else, he said. Another vision formed, but this one was different. This one I was in. I saw myself, tomorrow afternoon, at the coffee shop where I'd agreed to meet the person who'd messaged me. I saw them walk in, and in the vision, I could see what I wouldn't be able to see in real life. I could see the spiritual realm. I could see that this person was surrounded by angels. I could see that they were carrying something, not physically but spiritually, something that glowed with divine light. I could see that this was a genuine divine appointment, that God had indeed sent them. But then the vision split, showing me two possible outcomes. In one, I met with them. I received what they had to give, and I still couldn't see what it was, even in the vision. But I could see the effect it had. I could see doors opening, opportunities multiplying, a new season of ministry beginning that reached millions of people. In the other, I didn't show up. I got scared. I convinced myself it was foolish. I let fear and practicality override the witness in my spirit, and I saw that glowing thing, that gift, that opportunity, that divine package being taken to someone else, someone who would say yes, someone who would take the risk. The vision faded. Is that real? I asked, my voice shaking. Is that really going to happen tomorrow? That depends on you, Jesus said. That's the point. I'm setting up these appointments, but you have free will. All of you do. I'm knocking, but you have to open the door. I'm calling, but you have to answer. I'm sending, but you have to receive. The snow was really coming down now, accumulating on the rocks around us, on my shoulders, in my hair. But I realized I wasn't cold anymore. Or maybe I was so cold I'd gone numb. Or maybe his presence was generating some kind of warmth that defied the physical temperature. There's something else you need to understand, Jesus said, and he moved closer to me, close enough that I could see the snowflakes landing on his robe, on his hair. The person coming to your door, the divine appointment I'm setting up, it's not always going to be comfortable. It's not always going to be convenient. Sometimes it's going to cost you something. He paused, letting that sink in. Sometimes the person I send is going to need something from you, not bring something to you. Sometimes the knock at your door is me asking you to give, to serve, to sacrifice. Sometimes the divine appointment is your opportunity to be the answer to someone else's prayer. And if you're only opening the door when you think you're going to get something, you're going to miss half of what I'm doing. I felt that land in my chest like a weight. The woman who threw away the package, that was about receiving, he continued. But there are just as many who are going to turn away the person I send who needs help, who needs money, who needs time, who needs attention. They're going to see it as an interruption instead of an invitation. They're going to see it as a burden instead of a blessing. They're going to see it as a distraction from their plans instead of the very center of my plan. Another vision flickered in the air, quick, like lightning. I saw a family sitting down to dinner. There was a knock at the door. The father sighed, annoyed. Through the door was a neighbor they barely knew, clearly distressed, asking if they could talk. The father said it wasn't a good time, maybe tomorrow. The neighbor nodded and left. That night, the neighbor attempted suicide, survived, but barely. The father never knew how close his not a good time came to being a death sentence. "Oh God," I whispered. "You're starting to understand," Jesus said. "This isn't a game. This isn't a metaphor. This is life and death. This is destiny and purpose. This is the difference between living in the fullness of what I have for you and missing it entirely." He turned to face the valley again, and I stood beside him. The snow was creating a curtain between us and the view, but I could still see those scattered lights below, each one representing a home, a family, a person with hopes and fears and prayers. "In the next 30 days," Jesus said, his voice carrying over the wind, "I'm going to knock on every door. Not just yours. Everyone who's marked, everyone who's chosen for this season. Some will hear a literal knock. Some will receive a call. Some will get a message. Some will have a chance encounter. But I'm coming to all of them. And the ones who open the door, the ones who answer the call, the ones who say yes to the unexpected, they're the ones who are going to walk into the next season with me. The ones who don't." He didn't finish. The silence was answer enough. "What happens to them?" I asked, even though I was afraid of the answer. "They don't lose their salvation," he said. "They don't lose my love. But they miss the opportunity. They miss the season. They stay where they are while others move forward. And some opportunities only come once. Some doors only open once. Some divine appointments can't be rescheduled." The weight of that statement settled over me like the snow settling over the landscape. "I need you to tell them," Jesus said, turning to me again. "I need you to sound the alarm. I need you to warn them that I'm coming, but not the way they expect. I need you to tell them to pray now, to prepare now, to ask me now for eyes to see and ears to hear, because the knock is coming. For some of them it's already come and they missed it, but for most it's still ahead and they have a choice." "What if they don't believe me?" I asked. "What if they think I'm crazy? What if they dismiss this as emotional manipulation or fear-mongering?" "Then they'll miss it," he said simply, "and that will be their choice. But you'll have done what I asked you to do. You'll have delivered the message. What they do with it is between them and me." The snow was really accumulating now. The rocks around us were covered in white. My hair was full of it. I was starting to shiver despite whatever supernatural warmth had been sustaining me. "One more night," Jesus said. "Tomorrow night. Come back here one more time. There's one final thing you need to see. One final piece of this puzzle, and then you'll have everything you need to deliver the full message." "I'll be here," I said, and I meant it with every fiber of my being. He smiled, and despite the tears still on his face, despite the sorrow in his eyes, that smile was full of hope. "I know you will," he said. "You're one of the ones who's learning to recognize me in the unexpected. You're one of the ones who's willing to look foolish for my sake. You're one of the ones who will open the door." He reached out and put his hand on my shoulder, and the warmth that flooded through me was like standing in front of a fire after being in the cold for hours. "Don't be afraid tomorrow," he said. "When you meet that person at the coffee shop, don't be afraid. I'll be there with you, and what they have to give you is going to confirm everything I've shown you these past 2 nights." And then he was gone again, and I was alone in the snowstorm, shivering violently now, but with a fire burning in my chest that had nothing to do with temperature. I made my way back down the trail carefully, the snow making everything slippery and treacherous. By the time I reached my car, there was a good inch of accumulation on the ground and more coming down. The drive home was slow, careful, but my mind was racing. Tomorrow afternoon, I'm going to that coffee shop. I'm going to meet that person. I'm going to say yes to the unexpected. And tomorrow night, I'm going back to that outcrop for the final encounter. But right now, today, I need you to do something. I need you to stop and pray. Right now. Don't wait. Don't put it off. Don't tell yourself you'll do it later. Ask God, is someone coming to my door? Is there a divine appointment you're setting up for me? Give me eyes to see it. Give me ears to hear it. Give me the courage to say yes even when it doesn't make sense. And then I need you to stay alert. For the next 30 days, stay alert. Pay attention to the unexpected. Don't automatically dismiss the unusual. Don't immediately delete the strange message. Don't reflexively ignore the unknown number. Ask God for discernment. Real discernment, not just fear dressed up as wisdom. Because He's coming. Someone is coming to your door, and you get to choose whether you open it or not. Tomorrow night, I'll share the final piece. The most important piece. The piece that will make everything else make sense. Until then, stay awake. It was January 7th, 2026 at 2:47 a.m., the third night in a row that I'd awakened at this exact moment, as if an invisible alarm clock had been set in my soul. when I made the drive up that mountain road one final time. But everything was different now because of what had happened at the coffee shop just 14 hours earlier, and as I navigated the snow-covered road, my hands trembling on the wheel not from cold, but from the weight of what I was carrying, what I'd been given, what I now understood, I knew that this final encounter on that rocky outcrop was going to change not just my life, but the lives of everyone who would hear this message. The storm from the previous night had passed, leaving behind a world transformed by snow. At least 8 inches had fallen, covering everything in pristine white that reflected the moonlight so brightly it was almost like daylight. The temperature had risen slightly to 32 degrees, right at the freezing point, and the air was perfectly still, holding its breath, waiting. I need to tell you what happened at the coffee shop before I tell you about this final night, because you need to understand how the pieces fit together, how Jesus was orchestrating everything, how he was proving to me in real time that everything he'd shown me on that mountain was true. I almost didn't go. I woke up yesterday morning after maybe 2 hours of sleep, and the rational part of my brain, the part that's kept me safe my whole life, the part that's protected me from scams and manipulation and danger, was screaming at me that this was foolish. Meeting a stranger from the internet, someone with a fake-looking profile, someone who claimed to have something for me, but wouldn't say what. Every red flag was waving. I called 3 friends. 2 of them told me not to go. One said, if you do go, at least tell someone where you'll be and have an exit strategy. But there was something else. A witness in my spirit. A knowing that I can't fully explain. Every time I prayed about it, I felt peace. Not excitement, not certainty about what would happen, but peace. And I remembered what Jesus had said. I'll be there with you. So I went. The coffee shop was crowded. I'd chosen it specifically for that reason, public and safe. I got there 15 minutes early, ordered a coffee I was too nervous to drink, and sat at a table near the window where I could see everyone coming and going. At exactly 2:00 p.m., someone walked in. It was a woman, probably in her 60s, wearing a simple coat and carrying a worn leather bag. She looked completely ordinary. She looked around the coffee shop, and when her eyes landed on me, she smiled. Not a big smile, just a small, knowing smile, and walked over. "Jonathan?" she asked. "Yes," I said, standing up, my heart pounding. "Thank you for meeting me," she said, sitting down across from me. "I know this must seem strange. I know you probably think I'm crazy." "I don't think you're crazy," I said, and I was surprised to find that I meant it. She reached into her bag and pulled out an envelope. It was old, yellowed, sealed with wax. Actual wax, like something from another century. "My name is Margaret," she said, "and I need to tell you a story before I give you this." For the next 30 minutes, she told me about her husband, a man named David who had passed away 3 years earlier. David had been a pastor, a small-town pastor who never had a big ministry, never wrote books, never spoke at conferences, but he had been a man of prayer, a man who heard God's voice clearly. 20 years ago, Margaret said, David had a vision. In the vision, he saw a man. He described him in detail, and the description was unmistakably me, portraying Jesus in something that would reach millions of people. And God told David to write a letter to this man, to seal it, and to give it to him when the time was right. David wrote the letter that same night, sealed it, put it away. For 20 years, Margaret said, that letter sat in a drawer. David would take it out occasionally, pray over it, and put it back. He never knew who the man in his vision was, never knew if he'd ever find him. 3 years ago, David got sick. Cancer. In his final weeks, he made Margaret promise that she would find the man from his vision and give him the letter. He told her she'd know when the time was right. "I saw The Chosen 2 years ago," Margaret said, tears in her eyes now, "and the moment you appeared on screen, I knew. I knew you were the man from David's vision, but I didn't know how to reach you. I didn't know what to do. So I prayed. For months I prayed. And 3 weeks ago I had a dream. In the dream, God told me to find you on social media and send you a message. He told me exactly what to say. He told me you'd be afraid, that you'd almost not come, but that you would, because he was preparing your heart." She slid the envelope across the table to me. "This is for you," she said, "from David, from God. I don't know what it says, I've never opened it, but I know it's important. I know it's for this moment." My hands were shaking as I picked up the envelope. The wax seal had a symbol pressed into it, a simple cross. "Should I open it now?" I asked. "That's up to you," Margaret said, "but I think you should." I think that's why we're here. I broke the seal. Inside was a single sheet of paper covered in handwriting that was elegant and careful. And as I read it, tears started streaming down my face because it was impossible. It was absolutely impossible, but it was real. The letter described in detail the 3 nights on the mountain, the rocky outcrop, the encounters with Jesus, the visions, the warnings about divine appointments and people coming to doors. Things that hadn't happened yet when David wrote this letter 20 years ago. Things that had just happened to me in the past 3 nights. And at the end of the letter, David had written, "Jonathan, you're reading this because you said yes. You opened the door. You took the risk. You trusted God enough to meet with a stranger who seemed suspicious. And now you know this is all real. Everything Jesus is showing you is real. Everything he's asking you to tell people is real. Don't doubt. Don't second guess. Don't let fear or skepticism steal what God is doing. You are living proof that he keeps his promises, that he orchestrates divine appointments, that he sends messengers to those who will receive them. Now go and tell them all, someone is coming to their door, and they need to be ready." I looked up at Margaret, unable to speak. She was smiling, crying, nodding. "He knew," she whispered. "David knew. God showed him. And now you know too." We sat there for another hour. She told me more about David, about his life, about his faithfulness. She didn't want anything from me. She didn't ask for money or favors or recognition. She had simply been obedient to a promise she'd made to her dying husband, a promise that had required her to step out in faith, to contact a stranger, to risk looking foolish. When we finally parted ways, she hugged me and said, "Thank you for saying yes. David would be so happy." I sat in my car in that parking lot for a long time, holding that letter, weeping, overwhelmed by the reality of what God had just done. He had given me proof, undeniable, impossible to explain proof that everything he'd shown me on that mountain was real, and now, just hours later, I was driving back up that mountain for the final encounter, and I knew that whatever Jesus was about to show me tonight would be the culmination of everything, the final piece that would make the whole picture clear. The hike up to the outcrop was harder tonight because of the snow, but also easier because the moonlight on the white landscape made it bright enough that I barely needed my flashlight. Everything was silent, that peculiar silence that comes with snow, like the world is wrapped in cotton. My boots crunched with each step, the only sound in the vast stillness. When I reached the outcrop, Jesus was already there, but this time he wasn't alone. There were others with him, figures made of light, translucent and radiant, standing in a semicircle around the edge of the precipice. Angels. I knew immediately that's what they were, though they looked nothing like the paintings or the statues. They were tall, impossibly tall, and their presence made the air feel thick and charged, like the moment before lightning strikes. Jesus stood in the center of them, and when he saw me, he gestured for me to come forward. "Don't be afraid," he said, though his voice was different tonight, more formal, more ceremonial, like we were here for something official. I walked forward on shaking legs, and the angels parted to let me through. I could feel their presence as I passed between them, a sensation like standing too close to a powerful electrical current, not painful but overwhelming. "You met Margaret today," Jesus said. It wasn't a question. "Yes," I managed to say. "And you read David's letter?" "Yes. And now you know that everything I've shown you is real. Everything I've told you is true. The divine appointments are real. The people coming to doors are real. The separation that's happening is real." "Yes," I whispered. He nodded, and his expression was grave, solemn. "Tonight I'm going to show you why," he said. "Tonight I'm going to show you what's coming, what this is all preparing for, why it matters so much that my people learn to recognize me in the unexpected, to open doors when it doesn't make sense, to say yes to divine appointments even when they're afraid." He turned to face the valley, and the angels turned with him, creating a wall of light behind me. The snow-covered landscape below seemed to glow in response to their presence. "A shift is coming," Jesus said, his voice carrying across the valley like thunder. "A shift in the spiritual realm that will manifest in the physical realm. A separation of wheat and tares, sheep and goats, wise virgins and foolish virgins. Not for salvation, I need you to understand that, but for assignment, for purpose, for partnership in what I'm about to do on the earth." He raised his hands, and the sky above us began to change. The stars seemed to brighten, to pulse, and then the entire dome of heaven became like a screen, showing me things that made my knees buckle, made my breath catch, made my mind struggle to comprehend. I saw the earth from above spinning in space, and I could see the spiritual realm overlaid on the physical. I could see light and darkness in conflict, angels and demons in warfare, prayers rising like incense, and the glory of God moving like weather patterns across continents. And I saw a wave coming, a massive wave of God's presence, His power, His glory, rolling across the earth like a tsunami. But this wave was selective. It wasn't hitting everyone equally. It was flowing towards certain people, certain places, certain hearts that were open and ready to receive it. And I saw others, millions of others, standing with their backs turned, with their doors closed, with their hands up in resistance, not because they were evil or unsaved, but because they were afraid, because they were comfortable, because they were convinced they already knew everything they needed to know about how God works. The wave passed them by. "This is what's coming," Jesus said, and his voice was heavy with grief. "This is the next great move of my Spirit, but it's not going to look like the last one. It's not going to follow the patterns people expect. It's not going to flow through the traditional channels. It's going to come through the unexpected, the overlooked, the dismissed. It's going to come through divine appointments that seem random. It's going to come through strangers at doors. It's going to come through coincidences that are actually orchestrated encounters." The vision shifted, and I saw specific scenes playing out across the globe. I saw a young man in Africa receiving a knock at his door at midnight. A stranger stood there, drenched from rain, asking for shelter. The young man hesitated. It was dangerous. It was late. It didn't make sense. But something in his spirit said yes. He let the stranger in. That stranger was an angel in human form, carrying an impartation of prophetic gifting that would launch the young man into a ministry that would reach millions. But I also saw the alternate timeline, the young man saying no, turning the stranger away, and that impartation going to someone else, someone who would say yes. I saw a woman in South America receiving a phone call from a number she didn't recognize. She almost didn't answer, but she did. On the other end was someone claiming to be a distant relative with information about her family history. It seemed like a scam, but she stayed on the line. That conversation led to a connection, that led to a discovery, that led to a healing of generational trauma that had plagued her family for 100 years. But I also saw the alternate timeline, her ignoring the call, and that healing never coming. I saw a pastor in Asia receiving an email that looked like spam. The subject line was strange, the sender unknown, the message cryptic. He almost deleted it, but something made him open it. Inside was a prophetic word so specific, so accurate, so timely, that it changed the entire direction of his ministry and saved his church from a disaster he didn't know was coming. But I also saw the alternate timeline, him deleting it, and his church collapsing 6 months later. Vision after vision after vision, all across the world, all showing the same pattern. God setting up divine appointments, sending messengers, orchestrating encounters, and people having to choose whether to say yes or no, whether to open the door or keep it closed, whether to trust or fear. "This is happening right now," Jesus said, "in this moment, across the earth. I'm moving, I'm sending, I'm knocking, and the ones who answer, the ones who open, the ones who say yes, they're the ones who are going to carry the next wave. They're the ones who are going to be entrusted with the greater glory. They're the ones who are going to see miracles and signs and wonders that will make the book of Acts look tame." He turned to face me, and his eyes were blazing now, fierce and full of holy fire. "But the ones who don't," he continued, "the ones who stay locked in their comfort, locked in their theology, locked in their fear, they're not going to lose their salvation, but they're going to miss the greatest move of God in human history. They're going to watch from the sidelines while others step into the fullness of what I have planned, and some of them will spend the rest of their lives wondering why they feel so empty, why they feel like they missed something, why they feel like they're on the outside looking in." The angels behind me began to sing, or maybe it wasn't singing, maybe it was something beyond singing, a sound that was part music, part language, part pure emotion. It made my whole body vibrate. It made tears stream down my face. It made me want to fall on my face and worship. "The knock is coming," Jesus said, his voice rising above the angelic chorus. "For some, it's already come. For others, it's coming in the next few days, the next few weeks. And here's what I need you to understand. You only get one chance. Some divine appointments can't be rescheduled. Some doors only open once. Some messengers only knock once." He walked toward me, and the intensity of his presence made me take a step back. "This is why I brought you here 3 nights in a row," he said. "This is why I showed you the visions. This is why I sent Margaret with David's letter, because you needed to know, beyond any doubt, beyond any skepticism, that this is real, that I'm really moving, that the appointments are really divine, that the people coming to doors are really sent by me. He reached out and placed both hands on my shoulders, and the power that flowed through his touch was like being plugged into the sun. Now I'm sending you, he said. I'm sending you to tell them, to warn them, to prepare them, to help them understand that someone is coming to their door, and they need to be ready. They need to pray now. They need to ask me now for discernment. They need to cultivate the kind of relationship with me where they can hear my voice clearly enough to know when it's me knocking. The vision in the sky was fading now, the stars returning to normal, but the angels remained, their presence still making the air thick and charged. There will be signs, Jesus said, ways to know if it's really me. First, it will never contradict my word. Never. If someone comes to your door asking you to do something that violates Scripture, that's not me. Second, there will be a witness in your spirit. If you've been praying, if you've been asking me to prepare you, you'll feel it, a knowing, a peace, a confirmation that this is divine. Third, there will be fruit. Real divine appointments produce fruit, healing, provision, direction, connection, breakthrough. If it's really me, there will be evidence. He released my shoulders and stepped back. But you have to be willing to take the risk, he said. You have to be willing to look foolish. You have to be willing to step out in faith even when you're not 100% certain. Because that's what faith is, acting on what you believe to be true even when you can't prove it yet. One of the angels stepped forward, the tallest one, the one whose light was brightest. When it spoke, its voice was like 1,000 voices speaking in perfect harmony. The time of comfortable Christianity is over, it said. The time of safe, predictable, controllable faith is ending. The ones who will carry the next wave are the ones who are willing to be uncomfortable, to be surprised, to be led into places and situations they didn't plan. The ones who insist on staying in control, on knowing every detail before they move, on having every question answered before they step, they will be left behind. The angel's words hit me like a physical force, and I felt something break open inside me, some last vestige of resistance, some final wall of self-protection. I'll do it, I said, my voice barely audible. I'll tell them. I'll deliver the message. Jesus smiled, and the warmth of that smile pushed back the cold, pushed back the darkness, filled the entire outcrop with light. I know you will, he said. That's why I chose you. That's why I've been preparing you. That's why I sent Margaret with the letter, to confirm that you're not crazy, that this is real, that I keep my promises. The angels began to fade, their light dimming, their forms becoming translucent and then disappearing entirely. But their presence lingered, like the warmth that remains after a fire has been extinguished. Jesus was the last to go. He looked at me one final time, and his expression was a mixture of love and urgency, hope and warning. 30 days, he said. Tell them they have 30 days from today. By February 6th, the wave will have passed, the divine appointments will have been offered, the doors will have been knocked on, and the separation will be complete. Those who said yes will step into the new season. Those who said no will remain where they are. Tell them, warn them, prepare them. I will, I promised. And Jonathan, he added, his voice softer now, thank you for saying yes. Thank you for opening the door. Thank you for being willing to look foolish for my sake. You're going to see things in the coming months that will blow your mind. You're going to be part of something so much bigger than you can imagine. But it all started with you saying yes to the unexpected. And then he was gone. And I was alone on the snow-covered outcrop, the first hints of dawn beginning to touch the eastern horizon, turning the sky from black to deep blue to purple. I stood there for a long time, watching the sunrise, feeling the weight of what I'd been given, the responsibility of the message I now had to deliver. The hike back down was different. Everything looked different. The snow, the trees, the rocks, they all seemed more vivid, more real, more alive. Like I was seeing creation the way it actually is, not the dulled-down version we normally perceive. When I got to my car, I sat in the driver's seat and just wept with gratitude, wept with awe, wept with the weight of what I now knew. And then I drove home to record this message for you. If you're hearing this, you're one of the marked ones, you're one of the chosen ones for this season, and someone is coming to your door, maybe literally. maybe figuratively, but they're coming, and you have a choice to make. Will you open the door? Will you answer the call? Will you say yes to the unexpected? Or will you let fear, skepticism, and the need for control cause you to miss the greatest opportunity of your life? Tomorrow, I'll give you the practical steps, the specific things you need to do to prepare, the daily challenge that will position you to recognize and receive your divine appointment. But tonight, right now, I need you to do one thing: pray. Ask God to prepare your heart. Ask Him to give you eyes to see and ears to hear. Ask Him to help you recognize Him when He comes in disguise, because He's coming. Someone is coming to your door, and everything is about to change. It's been 3 days since that final encounter on the mountain, and I'm sitting here now in my home, looking at David's letter on my desk, this impossible 20-year-old letter that described events that hadn't happened yet, that confirmed everything Jesus showed me on that rocky outcrop, and I'm overwhelmed by the responsibility of what I'm about to share with you. The morning light is streaming through my window, and I can still smell the pine and snow from those 3 nights in the wilderness, can still feel the weight of His hands on my shoulders, can still hear the angels singing that sound that was beyond sound. But more than anything, I can still see His face, those tears, that urgency, and I know that what I'm about to tell you could literally change the trajectory of your entire life, if you'll receive it, if you'll act on it, if you'll say yes to what God is orchestrating right now in this very moment. Let me tell you what happened after I came down from that mountain the final time. I went home. I tried to process everything. I sat with David's letter for hours, reading it over and over, marveling at the specificity, at the impossible accuracy of what this man had written 2 decades ago. And then I did something I hadn't done in years. I went back through my own journals, my own prayer diaries, looking for breadcrumbs, looking for hints that God had been preparing me for this moment all along. And I found them. 3 years ago, I wrote in my journal, I had a dream last night that I was standing on a mountain and Jesus was showing me something about doors. I can't remember the details, but I woke up with this overwhelming sense that something was coming, something about divine appointments and unexpected encounters. 18 months ago, felt a strong impression during prayer today that I need to start paying attention to coincidences, that God is speaking through the unexpected more than I realize. 6 months ago, keep having this recurring thought, someone is coming. I don't know what it means, but it won't leave me alone. He was preparing me. All along, He was preparing me. And as I read through those journal entries, I realized something that made me weep. He's been preparing you too. Think about it. Why are you watching this? Out of millions of videos you could be watching right now, why this one? Why did you not scroll past? Why did something make you click, make you stay, make you watch all the way to this final part? Because you're marked. Because you're chosen for this season, because your divine appointment is coming, and God is preparing your heart right now to recognize it and receive it. But here's what I need you to understand. Preparation requires action. It requires participation. You can't just passively wait for the knock at your door and hope you'll magically know what to do when it comes. You have to actively prepare your heart, your mind, your spirit to recognize God in the unexpected. So I'm going to give you a 30-day challenge. 30 days from today, from January 7th to February 6th, 2026, the exact time frame Jesus gave me on that mountain. These 30 days are critical. They're the window. They're the season when the divine appointments are being orchestrated, when the messengers are being sent, when the doors are being knocked on. And what you do in these 30 days will determine whether you step into the next season or stay where you are. Here's the challenge, and I need you to take this seriously. I need you to write this down. I need you to commit to it. Because this isn't a game, this isn't entertainment, this is your life, this is your destiny. This is the difference between living in the fullness of what God has for you and missing it entirely. The 30-minute daily challenge. Every single day for the next 30 days, I need you to set aside 30 minutes. Not 5 minutes, not 10 minutes, but a full 30 minutes, and do the following. Minutes 1 to 10, the prayer of preparation. Get alone, turn off your phone, eliminate distractions, and pray this prayer in your own words from your heart. God, I'm asking you right now to prepare my heart for the divine appointment you're orchestrating for me. I'm asking you to give me eyes to see you in the unexpected. I'm asking you to give me ears to hear your voice in the unusual. I'm asking you to help me recognize you when you come in disguise. I'm asking you to give me courage to say yes even when it doesn't make sense, even when it seems risky, even when I'm afraid. I'm asking you to give me discernment, real discernment, not fear disguised as wisdom, to know the difference between you and a threat. I'm asking you to break down any walls of self-protection, any barriers of skepticism, any resistance in my heart that would cause me to miss what you're doing. I'm declaring right now that I'm open, I'm available, I'm willing. Send whoever you want to send, bring whatever appointment you want to bring. I will not turn away the unexpected. I will not dismiss the unusual. I will not let fear steal what you have for me. Pray that prayer every single day. Let it become part of your DNA. Let it reshape how you see the world, how you interact with the unexpected, how you respond to interruptions. Minutes 11:20, the Scripture Meditation. I'm going to give you 7 passages of Scripture. Each week, focus on one passage. Read it slowly. Read it multiple times. Let it sink deep into your spirit. Ask God to show you how it applies to this season, to this message about divine appointments and unexpected encounters. Week 1, days 1 to 7, Hebrews 13:2. Do not forget to show hospitality to strangers, for by so doing some people have shown hospitality to angels without knowing it. Week 2, days 8-14, Matthew 25:35-40. The passage where Jesus says, I was a stranger and you invited me in. Whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me. Week 3, days 15 to 21, Luke 24:13-35. The Road to Emmaus story, where Jesus walks with 2 disciples and they don't recognize him until the breaking of bread. Week 4, days 22-28, Genesis 18:1-15. Abraham entertaining angels unaware and receiving the promise of Isaac through unexpected visitors. Days 29 to 30, review all passages. Spend these final 2 days reviewing all 4 passages, asking God to seal them in your heart. Minutes 21-30, the practical exercise. This is the part that's going to feel uncomfortable. This is the part that's going to push you out of your comfort zone. But this is also the part that's going to train your spirit to recognize divine appointments when they come. Every single day, I need you to do something intentionally unexpected, something that breaks your normal routine, something that creates space for God to orchestrate an encounter. Here are some examples. Take a different route to work or to the store. Pay attention to who you see, who you encounter. Strike up a conversation with someone you'd normally ignore. The cashier, the person in line behind you, the neighbor you usually just wave to. Answer a call from an unknown number. Use wisdom. If it's clearly a robocall, hang up. But if it's a person, listen. Respond to a message from someone you don't know well. Again, use discernment, but don't automatically dismiss it. Go somewhere you don't normally go. A different coffee shop, a different park, a different grocery store. Say yes to an invitation you'd normally decline because it's inconvenient or outside your routine. Stop and help someone who needs help, even when you're busy, even when it's not convenient. The point is this: you're training yourself to be interruptible. You're training yourself to be available. You're training yourself to recognize that God often speaks through the unexpected, the unusual, the interruption to your plans. And here's what I've discovered in just these 3 days since I came down from that mountain. When you start living this way, when you start being intentionally open to the unexpected, you start seeing God everywhere. You start recognizing His hand in things you would have previously dismissed as coincidence. You start having encounters that are clearly divine appointments. Let me give you an example from my own life, just from yesterday. I was driving to a meeting. I was running late. I was stressed. And I saw a woman on the side of the road with a flat tire. Everything in me wanted to keep driving. I was late. I had an important meeting. Surely someone else would stop. But I heard that voice, that gentle whisper, "Stop." I almost didn't. I almost kept driving. But I remembered what Jesus had said on the mountain. Sometimes the person I send is going to need something from you, not bring something to you. So I stopped. I helped her change her tire. It took 20 minutes. I was now very late for my meeting, but as we were finishing, she started crying. She told me she'd been praying that morning, asking God if He was real, if He cared about her, if He saw her. She'd been going through a devastating divorce. She'd been questioning everything, and then her tire blew out, and she'd sat there for 30 minutes with no one stopping, and she'd started to believe that God had abandoned her. "And then you stopped," she said, "and you helped me. And now I know. I know He's real. I know He sees me. I know He cares." That was a divine appointment. That was God orchestrating an encounter. And I almost missed it because I was busy, because I was focused on my plans, because stopping was inconvenient. How many of those have I missed in my life? How many have you missed? That's what these 30 days are about. Training yourself to stop, to pay attention, to be available, to say yes to the unexpected. Now let me address something that I know some of you are thinking. But Jonathan, what if I do all this and nothing happens? What if I pray every day, meditate on Scripture, do the practical exercises, and no one comes to my door? What if there's no divine appointment? What if I miss it anyway? Here's what Jesus told me about that on the third night after the angels had faded and it was just the two of us. Some will do everything right and still won't recognize the appointment when it comes, because they're looking for the spectacular and I'm coming in the simple. But others will do everything right and will recognize it, and their lives will never be the same. And even those who miss it, if they've spent 30 days praying, meditating on my word, and practicing being available to the unexpected, they haven't wasted their time. They've grown. They've deepened their relationship with me. They've positioned themselves for the next opportunity, because the appointments don't stop after 30 days. I'm always orchestrating encounters. I'm always sending messengers. I'm always knocking on doors. This 30-day window is just a concentrated season, a specific move, a particular wave. But the principles apply for the rest of your life. So you can't lose. Even if you don't recognize your specific divine appointment in these 30 days, you've still gained something invaluable. You've learned to live with your heart open. You've learned to recognize God in the unexpected. You've learned to be available to His interruptions. But I believe with everything in me, that if you do this challenge faithfully, if you pray every day, if you meditate on the scripture, if you practice being intentionally available to the unexpected, you will recognize your divine appointment when it comes. You will open the door, you will say yes, and your life will change. Now let me give you some specific things to watch for. Some signs that your divine appointment might be happening. Sign number 1, unusual timing. Divine appointments often come at inconvenient times, late at night, early in the morning, when you're busy, when you're tired, when you have other plans. If something unexpected happens at an unusual time, pay attention. Sign number 2, repetition. If you keep seeing the same name, the same number, the same person, the same opportunity show up multiple times in a short period, that's often God trying to get your attention. Don't dismiss it as coincidence. Sign number 3, peace despite confusion. You might not understand what's happening. You might not know why you're being asked to do something or meet someone, but if you feel peace in your spirit, a deep, unexplainable peace, that's often the Holy Spirit confirming that this is divine. Sign number 4, confirmation through Scripture. If you're reading your Bible and a passage jumps out at you that directly relates to the unexpected situation you're facing, that's often God confirming that He's in it. Sign number 5, fruit. Real divine appointments produce fruit. If you say yes to the unexpected encounter and it leads to healing, provision, breakthrough, connection, or direction, that's confirmation that it was God. Let me also tell you what to do if you realize you've already missed your divine appointment. If you're watching this and you're thinking, oh no, someone came to my door last week and I didn't answer. Someone called and I didn't pick up. Someone reached out and I dismissed them. First, don't panic. Don't spiral into condemnation. God is gracious. He gives second chances. He creates new opportunities. Second, repent. Tell God you're sorry. Tell Him you missed it. Tell Him you want to do better. Third, ask Him for another chance. Ask Him to send another messenger, create another appointment, give you another opportunity. Fourth, start the 30-day challenge today, right now. Don't wait. Don't put it off. Start preparing your heart immediately so you don't miss the next one. I want to share something else that happened after I came down from the mountain. I went back to that coffee shop where I'd met Margaret. I don't know why, I just felt drawn to go back. And while I was sitting there, drinking coffee, processing everything, a young man approached my table. "Excuse me," he said. "Are you Jonathan Roumie?" "Yes," I said. "I'm sorry to bother you," he said, "but I feel like I'm supposed to tell you something. This is going to sound crazy, but I was praying this morning, and I felt like God told me to come to this coffee shop at this exact time, and that I'd meet someone who needed to hear this message." My heart started pounding. "3 days ago," he continued, "I had a dream. In the dream, I saw you standing on a mountain talking to Jesus, and Jesus told me to tell you the letter was just the beginning. There's more coming. Confirmations upon confirmations, signs upon signs. I'm going to prove to you over and over that this is real, so that when you tell people, you'll speak with absolute conviction." I started crying right there in the coffee shop, because that's exactly what I'd been praying that morning. I'd been asking God for more confirmation, more proof, more evidence that I wasn't crazy, that this was really Him, and He sent a stranger to a coffee shop to deliver a message. That's how He works. That's how He's always worked. Through the unexpected, through the unusual, through the people and situations we'd normally dismiss. Now, I need to talk about the deadline, February 6th, 2026. That's 30 days from when I came down from the mountain the final time. Jesus was very specific about this date. He said, by February 6th, the wave will have passed, the divine appointments will have been offered, the doors will have been knocked on, and the separation will be complete. I don't fully understand what that means. I don't know exactly what happens after February 6th, but I know it's significant. I know it's a marker. I know it's a deadline. Does that mean God stops moving after February 6th? Of course not. Does it mean there are no more divine appointments after that date? No. But it does mean something shifts, something changes, a particular window closes, a specific season ends. And those who said yes during this window, those who opened the door during this season, those who recognize their divine appointments during these 30 days, they step into something new, something greater, something that those who said no won't experience. I can't explain it better than that because I don't fully understand it myself, but I know it's real, I know it's important, I know it's urgent. So here's what I need you to do right now, today, in this moment. Action. Step number 1, commit. Leave a comment below. Tell me you're committing to the 30-day challenge. Write it out. I commit to the 30-day challenge. I will pray for 10 minutes, meditate on scripture for 10 minutes, and do something intentionally unexpected for 10 minutes every single day from now until February 6th. Writing it out makes it real. It makes it a covenant. It makes you accountable. Action. Step number 2, set a daily alarm. Right now, pull out your phone and set a daily alarm for the same time every day. Make it a time when you can actually do the full 30 minutes. For me, it's 6 a.m. For you, it might be different, but set the alarm. Make it non-negotiable. Action. Step number 3, get an accountability partner. Find someone, a friend, a family member, someone from your church, and tell them about this challenge. Ask them to check in with you. Ask them to hold you accountable. Better yet, ask them to do the challenge with you. Action step number 4, keep a journal. Get a notebook, physical or digital, and every day write down what happened during your 30 minutes. Write down your prayers. Write down what God showed you in Scripture. Write down what happened when you did something intentionally unexpected. Document the journey, because I promise you by February 6th, you're going to look back at that journal and be amazed at what God did. Action step number 5. Share this message. I need you to share this video with everyone you know who needs to hear it. Not for my sake. I don't care about views or subscribers or any of that, but for their sake. Because someone in your life is marked for this season. Someone in your life needs to hear this message. Someone in your life is about to receive a divine appointment, and they need to be prepared. Don't let them miss it because you were too embarrassed to share, too afraid of looking weird, too concerned about what people might think. Let me tell you what's going to happen over these next 30 days if you do this challenge faithfully. You're going to start seeing God everywhere. You're going to start recognizing His hand in situations you would have previously dismissed. You're going to have encounters that are clearly divine. You're going to receive provision you didn't expect. You're going to get direction you've been praying for. You're going to experience breakthrough in areas where you've been stuck. But more than that, you're going to develop a new way of living, a new way of seeing, a new way of being available to God's interruptions. And that's going to serve you for the rest of your life. I also need to tell you what's going to happen if you don't do this challenge. If you watch this video, feel moved, maybe even cry, but then go right back to your normal life without changing anything, you're going to miss it. You're going to miss your divine appointment. You're going to miss the knock at your door. You're going to miss the person God sends. You're going to miss the opportunity He orchestrates, and you're going to spend the rest of your life with this nagging feeling that you missed something important, something significant, something that could have changed everything. I don't want that for you. Jesus doesn't want that for you. That's why He sent me to that mountain 3 nights in a row. That's why He showed me the visions. That's why He sent Margaret with David's letter. That's why He's orchestrating this entire message right now, because He loves you, because He has something for you, because He's knocking on your door, and He's waiting to see if you'll open it. Let me close with this. On that final night on the mountain, after the angels had faded, after Jesus had given me the message, after He'd told me about the 30-day window, I asked Him one last question. Lord, what if people think I'm crazy? What if they dismiss this as emotional manipulation or fear-mongering? What if they say I'm using your name to get views or build a platform? And He looked at me with such love, such compassion, And he said, Jonathan, I didn't call you to be popular. I didn't call you to be understood. I didn't call you to make everyone comfortable. I called you to deliver a message. And the ones who are meant to hear it will hear it. The ones who are marked for this season will recognize the truth in your words because my spirit will witness to their spirit. And the ones who dismiss it, who mock it, who reject it, they're making their choice. You're not responsible for their response. You're only responsible for your obedience. So I'm being obedient. I'm delivering the message. And now the choice is yours. Someone is coming to your door. A divine appointment is being orchestrated. An unexpected encounter is on the horizon. Will you be ready? Will you recognize it? Will you say yes? The next 30 days will determine the answer. I'm praying for you. I'm praying that you'll have the courage to do this challenge. I'm praying that you'll recognize your divine appointment when it comes. I'm praying that you'll say yes to the unexpected. And I'm praying that on February 7th, you'll be able to look back and say, I didn't miss it. I opened the door. I said yes, and everything changed. God bless you. Stay alert. Stay available. Stay open. Someone is coming to your door, and everything is about to change. The knock is coming. Will you answer? 30-day challenge, January 7th, February 6th, 2026. Leave your commitment in the comments below.